today. Remember, every element of the program has been voted for and built by you. And one question that many of you kept asking again and again was, how do I build my own personal or organizational brand on blockchain? Well, we are so excited that we have persuaded some absolute geniuses and rock stars to answer that question. We're going to hear from some of the best known brands in Cardano to explain how they created their product from day one, how they built it, how they created that notoriety, generated that buzz, and ultimately got results. That is why they're here, and we are so lucky to have them. In a moment on this panel, we'll be joined by Lenna and Issy from ClayNation. Dumpling will moderate the session, and of course, our favorite award-humping dog, Hosky. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for our panelists.
Right.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Woo! At least he's wearing a bow tie.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. How are you? Very good. What am I supposed to say? Yes! Wake up! Thank you for coming to this panel. We're going to talk about building your brand on blockchain and in the Web3 world. So why don't we start with a brief self-introduction? Lenna, you want to get started?
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about who you are and what your brand is.
Yeah, so I'm Lenna. I founded ClayNation last April. And since then, it's been a bit of a whirlwind. And we've been building ourselves out as a bit more than what we started, with the small Claymations. We're now building out as a brand. And we're here to share a bit of info with you guys. And it's really just been an amazing journey. So,
yeah, we started as an NFT project, a generative art NFT project. And today we are 3 NFT collections in. We've got 51,000 digital assets. And we're building out our brand within the virtual digital space. So yeah, we're really working to bring music, art to Web3, and do that along with forming good social connections and with the community at the center of that.
Hi, everybody. I am Hosky. I am the CED, or Chief Executive Dog, of the Hosky project. Unlike them, who have mentioned a lot of important things that they're working on, we're working on nothing.
What is your brand, Hosky?
So our brand is basically, we're a meme token with a supply of 1,000,000,001, which is more than the other dogs on other blockchains. So we are the largest pile, if you know what I mean. And also we have 420 NFTs, generative as well. And our brand is, again, about nothing.
Very impressive. I am Dumpling. I'm a community builder and problem solver in the Web3 world. My brand is around trust. So first question, what do you guys and girls see is the biggest difference when it comes to brand building in Web2 and Web3?
Okay, so in Web3, so in Web2 you have a group of people who you might traditionally call your customer, consumer base. In Web3,
or clients, we were saying.
Your client. In Web3, you're dealing more so, in our experience, with a community. So you have a different relationship with the people that who are purchasing your product or are interacting with you and your brand. So I would say that direct line of communication is one of the biggest differences between Web2 and Web3, especially that we've experienced ourselves. So you have a direct line of communication, and for better or for worse, it can help you bring out the best in your product and your brand and get direct feedback from the people who are actually using it, which of course you can still get in Web2, but that line of communication is definitely different.
And I think that's a very important part, because we're talking about a brand versus building a business. A brand is something that resonates within the community, and it resonates because of the values that it shares with the larger ecosystem itself. And I think the biggest difference between Web 2 and Web 3 is not as difficult. I think everybody up here, we're just standard average Joes and Janes, and Web 3 is much more accessible to everyday users. And you don't have to start with a multi-million-dollar budget in order to build something, in order to build that community, in order to begin building that reputation.
Oh, you didn't? No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I just adding on to that, it's the fact like Issy and I, we're obviously the founders, CEO, COO, but we still run and maintain our socials as well. And exactly as you were saying, like people can still send us a DM, and it's actually really likely that we'll be seeing that and we'll be responding to that. And you just don't have that with mainstream media and brands.
Yeah, you're talking about, when you send an email to support or whatever not, you're getting some person that is paid to answer or respond. When you send a DM to me, first off, you shouldn't, but if you do, you're literally going to get me replying to your messages. And again, it's a direct line of communication with the community as a whole, and it is so accessible to everybody. I think that the biggest difference is if you have a smartphone, you can download a wallet, interact with the blockchain, and that is much more accessible now than Web 2 was at its infancy.
Thank you. Hosky, remind us, please. We mentioned the notions of clients, customers, community members. What are the people in your community called? It was starting with the letter I.
It's a letter I, and usually in crypto, the I word everybody thinks of is investors, but no, we have none of those. Our community is built around idiots. And now, hear me out. I've met a few of those idiots here. Some of them are doctors, lawyers, teachers. So it's the Hosky community is a bunch of very intelligent idiots.
The II.
Dumpling, what do you think? Yes, I'm also the moderator, and I'm killing myself. So. The difference between Web3 and Web2 brand building, one of the key differences is, I think, about identification and empowerment of the individuals. When you're running a Web2 company, you have your brand. People believe in your products and services, and they're just your customers. But when you have a Web3 brand, each individual, they are behind this notion. You're either idiot or you're one of the Clay members. So you have an identity. You're no longer just one of the faceless customers. You're empowered and encouraged to speak, to communicate with your brand leaders and your fellow community members. That's one of the key differences that I think for companies, very important for them to understand. Now, coming to the second question, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges when it comes to brand building in the Web3 world?
So I guess in that same channel of thought, having a direct line of communication with your audience, your customer, your community is difficult at times because you feel like you have to take on a lot of feedback or a lot of input and opinion where maybe you wouldn't normally. So I think that there is a certain level of maintaining your vision, like still knowing your vision and maintaining that, even when you're receiving certain feedback which may be contrary to that. And that is pretty difficult anyway, and it's very difficult when you're exposed on Twitter and Discord and in those sorts of relationships. So it's super important, I think, to also learn to avoid the noise and focus on the vision that you set out to have, because it's intense at times.
Yeah, and one thing that I think is difficult one of the most important things also, but it's very difficult to achieve, is your brand is only as good as its reputation. There's a proverb that says a good name is better than riches, and that's very, very true about Web3, is the brand that you carry, in this case, ClayNation, Hosky, or any of the other brands that you see. It's all based on other people trusting you. So it's 100% reputation based. And that is one of the hardest things I've come to find out that to build, even when promising nothing.
Yeah, we're quite jealous, really.
Yeah, we discussed how the Hosky brand and the Clay brand, we both like to be genuine. We set out our goals and we aim to reach those. The contrast here is that our goals are quite grand and involve a lot of work, and yours don't involve too much.
Right.
So yeah, jealousy is real.
We succeed by failing, and we fail by succeeding.
Yeah, another thing that's a challenge in the Web3 space is how fast-paced it is, how new it is. So although it is also an advantage, how new it is, and it gives you all this scope to do all these things, it also means that every single day there's a new milestone or goalpost that we should be hitting. And we say, and it's kind of becoming one of our taglines, is that clay is malleable and it can change shape, and we have to do that every day. And some of the things we set out to achieve aren't now the things that we will, because of the kind of demand and, again, that direct communication from our community.
Dumpling, what about you?
Thanks.
That's why we brought you.
One of the biggest challenges I always think is the mindset shift in Web3, because I want people to take accountability for themselves in terms of what they think. In Web2, we like to have opinion leaders. You know, you can just hand your brain over to them and say, make a decision for me. But when it comes to my own brand, and a lot of times these solid brands like these people, they will showcase and they will deliver, and then you make up your own mind. And that, it is very essential and very new thing for people to grasp. I want to come to what Issy was saying, ignore the noise. How do you define what's noise?
Anything that stops you from focusing on the vision that you have, and it doesn't mean that you can't take on feedback and listen to people, and of course that's super important, and receive advice and learn. But ultimately, you probably have the vision that you set out with, and the noise are the people who are demanding more than you're willing to put out. So I think there is a lot of high expectations in the space that we're in Web3, that everything has to be delivered tomorrow.
Yesterday.
Yes, yeah, everything has to be delivered yesterday. And it's good to be fast-paced and it's good to be moving on the ball, but you have to just stick to what you set out to do. And I think, with just... I once read a quote which was something along the lines of, it wasn't a quote from a proverb, but like someone on Twitter, I think, right? Like, to basically stay present or fade away. So stay present, don't make unrealistic expectations, but continue to communicate and communicate where you're moving and the direction that you're going.
Right. I think one of the difficult things is to stay active in your community. It's important, if you're not active in the community, to differentiate between what's noise and what's valid criticism. And another thing that's very important is having the ability to admit when you're wrong, when you don't know what you're doing, and reach out to those who may have the skills that you lack. That's the beauty of Web3, is we're all working together. And there's many people, mentors that I can say, names come to the top of my mind, won't say them, but it's important to be able to recognize that you don't know everything, that you're not the center of the universe, you're not the center of attention, and that there are others you should look up to.
Definitely. And then it's the same for the people that sometimes offer advice when you're not ready or it's not the right time. You have to also trust yourself that you do know quite a lot. So even though you're always open to taking on that advice, you still have to have belief in yourself and trust yourself. It always comes back to trust, I think.
Ultimately, you're the one that determines, the path of your brand. We've all gotten here so far with what we've done, with the thoughts or the plans. So it can be challenging when people question your motives, and then you begin questioning yourself. And sometimes you just have to push through that and, still go through with whatever it is that you want to accomplish.
The journeys of your brands, did you guys start out by already knowing this is the brand we want to build? Or did you absorb a lot of feedback and suggestions and started to shape the brand accordingly?
It's definitely been a journey, and I think in many ways, I know we're here obviously talking about how we built our brand, but I think we are still building it. And as something I touched on briefly at the beginning is that we did start off as an NFT project, and that's what it was, but we always had this vision to bring in music, to bring in this festival environment. But the way that we've done that it's still surprising us in that sense. And that's really where our focus is right now, is building that brand and having that identity. We even feel that us ourselves represent the brand like way more than we would have expected. We would have thought it was more about ClayNation, but it's also us. I think that's been one of the more surprising things.
I mean, our brand ultimately revolves around one word, and that's clay.
I was like, no, clay, yeah.
And happy. So we always knew that we wanted the brand to reflect the joy that we have when watching clay animation and that other people get when they watch clay animation. And there was always that desire to make it light and fun and happy and create new social experiences through that. And that kind of led us to where we are today. And everything around that has kind of evolved. The music thing was always a big dream. We never knew that it was going to turn out quite as well as it did so early on. But again, that was always what we were aiming for from the beginning.
We thought we might have limitations being just clay and claymation, but actually we can really do anything. And like next thing we know, we're doing clay Snoop Dogg, and it's like, just because we're claymation doesn't mean we can not get involved with other brands, and really we can create, and that's kind of like, who doesn't love Chicken Run?
Got to say that Chicken Run, I did grow up with that. Now, yeah, when it comes to the project, I will be extremely honest. We had perfect plans. Everything was set in stone. Nothing has changed. Just kidding. It's been shooting from the hip. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say that we were prepared for where we are now. We are much better prepared now than we were, I think it's been a year now. In crypto time, the joke is it's like dog years almost, so it feels like 7 times the amount, especially the stress. And when it comes to the project, I think it's something that you can shape as you grow. One thing that we started as a meme token, a voice was then given to this Twitter account, you can say, and then we began to push for decentralization, which is what benefits everybody, the Cardano ecosystem as a whole. So that's kind of where our brand has gone, where we can incentivize users, incentivize delegators to delegate to smaller pools to help to decentralize Cardano. We've seen many failures of the centralized entities recently, and that's one thing that I'm grateful for, is that we can have that voice that speaks on behalf of decentralization. And that is what has, I believe, made the Hosky project as a whole a success. What about you, Dumpling?
I want to synthesize what they just said. I just came to an epiphany in Web 2, the brands. It's like a table of directors, creative directors. They come together and say, this is the brand. This is our slogan. Our customers are going to repeat this phrase. Our advertisements are going to have this phrase. And that's our brand from now on. But in Web3, looking at your stories and your journeys and my own, it looks like we have this idea, but you're welcome to build on top of it. You, as our community members, you're welcome to give us feedback. You're welcome to give us ideas, and you're welcome to share your skill sets. So I believe in Web3, the brand building is everlasting. The brand you're looking at now is the brand you're looking at today. Maybe 2 years from now, there's new additions to your brand. Thank you for making me realize that.
So you're telling me I'm stuck inside of this suit for the rest of my life?
No, the opposite.
That's the plan.
Oh, you can be a cat next week if you want.
As long as the community tell you that you should be a cat next week, then you can be a cat next week.
No
Vote
cats.
with
Don't
your
get ideas.
Hosky.
Don't get ideas.
So coming to the more executional, tangible level, can you highlight some of the people that helped you in your brand building journey? You don't need to name names, but maybe you can name their roles. Could be moderators, artists, for example.
I want to start off by thanking the entire Hosky Discord. I'm pretty sure that as this talk is going on, this panel, there's plenty of spam going on. And without a community, a brand is nothing. So that's the one thing that I think a lot of people need to realize, is that your brand, without the users, without the community, it's just you and your idea. So I do want to give a shout out to the Hosky Discord, all my moderators. I think there's 10 of them. A few of them are here. Without them, this would not be possible. And also, there's been a lot of people that connections that I've made that have given me very good advice on where to go, where to proceed. So again, relying on those connections that you're going to make in Web3 is very important. I think networking is one of the biggest challenges and also the most rewarding aspects of Web3. This sounds awful, but it's knowing the right people. And don't be afraid, as you're here at the summit, to go out to the lobby and to speak to people, get to know them, introduce yourself. Don't get lost behind the PFP. Go talk to the human. So again, shout out to everybody, and I couldn't name all the names, but I'm sure the Clays likely have many more people that they can talk to.
I feel that I was super lucky in a way because I was able to work at I/O for a brief time, just at the kind of early stages of ClayNation, and that was one thing because I was involved with the Cardano community prior to setting up Claymates, and that in itself kind of gave us some insight onto how the community works and how Cardano community is and how big it is and how to, like, getting to know people. And then when we first launched, we really knew every single person in our Discord, and I really wanted to mention those guys because they're the people that believed in us when it wasn't that many people that did or did know us. And it made a huge difference, actually. I'm just going to say it because CJ's right there. Somebody that stacks it and really showed that support outwardly on Twitter. And people like that, the early collectors, early believers, because it meant that we kept producing that artwork and we kept creating that content. And if nobody was there saying, this is great, I love it, we might not have done the next thing. Also to our moderators, obviously, who are stellar.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the answer again is community. We also had friends along the way, and I have to agree with you on the networking point that you made, Hosky, because I mean, Lenna and myself have been to more events in the past 6 months than a crypto, blockchain, NFT events, web summits, everything. And I think that you just make one or two good connections at an event and it makes the whole thing worth it, honestly. And that doesn't have to be someone who's going to directly help you or is, going to give you a particularly amazing leg up, but someone who can offer advice, someone who's been in the industry for longer, someone who's been in music, someone who's been in art. And those connections have been really, really valuable to us. And I mean, we went to Singapore for the first time a few weeks back, and we met some amazing women in the space, particularly there, who have just been since incredible inspiration to us and strong and offering us advice. And I think those sorts of people have really, really helped us along the way.
Yeah, 100%.
So, Dumpling, for you, since it is your personal brand, it is about you. What has been the most beneficial connection and/or advice that you've received?
Obviously, I made a lot of connections in the community, including the ClayNation and Hosky. But today, I want to highlight really the grassroots of the people that helped me in my brand. For instance, I have the Chinese-speaking Telegram, and the moderators, they just came up to me one day and say, "Hey, I'm from Taiwan. Can I help you? Can I have your permission to help you and be a moderator?" And another girl from Malaysia, she's like, "You don't need to pay me, but can I help you?" These are the people that helped me shape my brand and the entire community. And with that, I want to lead to the next theory I've been recently thinking about is you don't solely define your brand. The people in your community, they define your brand. So these people from whatever Chinese-speaking region, Taiwan, Malaysia, USA, they define me, their actions, their inclusivity, their leniency, their open-mindedness, together, they define what is the Dumpling brand, what is the Chinese-speaking community. And I'm sure the Hosky community and the ClayNation community, you have very similar experience.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah, the idiots. Again, don't take this personal. Everybody in our Discord is familiar with idiot being an actual term of endearment. They have definitely shaped a lot of what the project has become. So yeah, I completely agree with you, Dumpling. It's about you growing along with your community and they shaping your brand.
Our team as well. We're really lucky to have found an incredible team, and some of those have come from the community directly. And without that, again, we wouldn't be able to pull this off. It is something we all lean on each other. The community is inputting every day, and something in that pot comes out, that's good. And it really, really helps us, yeah.
We're coming slowly towards the end of this presentation.
You can see the
so,
time ticking.
Yeah, my eyes on the clock, very important. I want to ask you, on a very philosophical level, highest level, what is the principle, what are the principles of your brand? You know, when you are defining what's noise and what's useful feedback, you're using your principles as your filter. So for you guys, what is the principle for you?
You want to go? One of them is to have fun, which doesn't sound like a principle, but it is, because if something actually is unenjoyable, then like what's it for in that sense? So I think that's something that we always look to.
Inclusivity is at the heart of our brand, and I think from the beginning that was always something that we were super passionate about, and then we continue to be so. And we want to create an environment which doesn't exclude people but based on certain factors, and actually feels comfortable for people who may not feel comfortable elsewhere. I think as women, we strive to find those communities ourselves, and therefore maybe it's a bit easier for us to provide that, or to initiate that sort of feeling and spot for people. But it's something that I think the whole space needs to actively work on, and not just for women, but for all sorts of pockets of community. And I think that that's going to definitely remain a core focus of our brand, and it's something that we work a lot with Champ on as well, Champ Medici on as well, because that's also of high importance to him, and it's something that we connected initially over. Onboarding communities, but onboarding diverse communities.
Philosophy, right? So I bark, therefore I am. That's what I will. That's all I will say, because I think we're running low on time. What about you, Dumpling?
That was scripted. I asked them to ask me a question. Well done, Dogo. So
good boy.
Principle is trust and integrity. And even from a very cynical point of view, self-serving point of view, having integrity means you don't need to worry about making up another story the next day. It's the laziest, most effective way, and has been proven in the stories of Cardano versus the stories of the FTXs. Integrity and trust, they're going to last you much longer, and you're going to have more exponential growth in the long term.
Yes. And I think one of the things I would like to end us with is decentralization matters. Let's not forget about what has made Cardano what it is today. And let's not be the FTXs of the world. Let's ensure that we push to stake to single small stake pools that might be struggling. That's kind of been the fight for us. And yeah.
ClayNation, do you have anything to add?
I was just going to comment that it does always come back to those things, as you said: inclusivity, integrity, trust. Those are the core values and the core principles. If a project is leading with that, then the rest will fall into place. Those are the most important things. And by doing so, you're actually going to create a space where people can have fun, because you can actually be in a safe space. So it comes back to that too.
Hosky is a Dogo-led community and brand. ClayNation's women-led. Dumpling, food-led. So Cardano is highly diversified. Everybody's here to welcome. Unless you're a food maxi and you hate pineapple on pizzas. Red flags.
Yes, pineapple belongs on pizza. Add some jalapenos and then come back and talk to me.
Very good. Thank you for coming to today's panel. Thank you.
Thanks.